Perimenopause and menopause can start earlier than most people think and can impact nearly every part of life. The good news? You don't have to just deal with it. That's where Effecti comes in. Effecti offers modern personalized hormone therapy, including bioidentical estradiol and progesterone to help bring your body back into balance. Whether you're dealing with hot flashes, mood swings, or brain fog, Effecti's treatments are designed to ease symptoms and help you feel like you again. I'm in my 40s, and perimenopause has hit me hard and really does just make you feel not like yourself. I've been working with Effecti for a while, and you can get treatments that are specifically tailored to whatever it is that you're dealing with. I love it because it's so convenient. Everything happens online, from the medical intake to prescription and delivery. So whether you live in a big city or a rural town, Effecti brings expert menopause care right to your door with no waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines. So if you're struggling with sleep, mood swings, low libido, or just don't feel like yourself, it might be time to look at your hormones, and Effecti can help. Right now, you can get $50 off at Effecti.com with code ATTWG at checkout. That's EFFECTY.com and use ATTWG for $50 off. Start your journey to feeling better. Did you know that your calendar age doesn't always match how old your body truly is? I recently took the True Age test from True Diagnostic and discovered my biological age. And the results completely changed the way that I think about my health. My test revealed that I'm about 6 months older than my biological age, so clearly I have some work to do because I want to outrun the clock in terms of my health. And I can do that because the True Age test didn't just give me a number, it showed how quickly my heart, brain, liver, and immune system are aging. It was pretty eye-opening. Like, my brain is doing great, but I need to work on my cardiac health a little bit, which honestly was a bit of a surprise for me, but it's a great place to focus. The test itself was super easy and convenient. I did it from home. There was no doctor visit or big needles. It was a quick, painless finger prick. You send off the tiny sample in a prepaid package, and in about 2 to 3 weeks, you get a detailed online report about your aging and health. It's fast and hassle-free. So if you care about protecting your health and want to find out what your real age is, head over to TrueDiagnostic.com and use my code ATTWG to get 20% off your entire order or subscription. That's TrueDiagnostic.com and use ATTWG at checkout to get 20% off. Your future self will thank you. If you love reading thrillers that get under your skin and make you question everyone, even the narrator, then we have your next obsession. It Happened on the Lake by New York Times bestselling author Lisa Jackson. Ethan and I have both been reading this book, and you started reading it before I even did, and you seem like you got really into it.
I admittedly am not a fan of thrillers.
Yeah.
But I cannot stop reading this book. It is a really, really, really good book, a great page turner, and I am so into it.
I totally am too. It Happened on the Lake is a domestic suspense thriller that's set in the 1960s and 80s that follows a woman returning to her family's Victorian home on a private island in Oregon. She's trying to move on, but coming back means reopening wounds that never fully healed. 20 years ago, her grandmother died under her care and her boyfriend disappeared that same night. No one was ever charged and no body was found, but the neighbors never stopped watching her. And now someone might be watching again. So if you listen to our show, obviously this is right up your alley. And so if you're a fan of authors like Karen Slaughter or Riley Sager, this is 100% up your alley. Or like Ethan said, even if you're not, it's just a good book. So go grab your copy of It Happened on the Lake by Lisa Jackson wherever books are sold. You can get it in either print or ebook format. And grab a friend too, because you're going to want to talk to somebody about that ending.
Seriously, go get this book. It is so good.
Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is June 23rd. On this day in 1965, police in Houston, Texas stepped into what looked like just another quiet house in a quiet neighborhood. But what they found inside was anything but ordinary. What they stumbled upon would launch one of Texas's most baffling missing persons cases: a double murder, a vanished son, and a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Today, we're taking a closer look at the Icebox Murders and the strange disappearance of Charles Rogers. Let's get started. The Montrose area of Houston was and still is a charming neighborhood. It's a quiet community full of trees and modest homes. But on June 23, 1965, that quiet was interrupted when police showed up at 1815 Driscoll Street to check on Fred and Edwina Rogers, a couple who hadn't been seen for several days. They were described by neighbors as quiet and polite. They weren't exactly the type of people you'd expect to find at the center of a murder mystery. They lived with their adult son Charles, who was rarely seen and kept to himself, living up in the attic apartment. Concern first started brewing when Edwina missed her regular phone calls and appointments. Her nephew, Marvin Martin, got worried and asked the police to do a welfare check. What happens next haunted detectives for years. The house was locked up tight and there were no signs of a break-in. But once police got inside, they noticed how oddly clean everything was. It felt like someone had gone to great lengths to scrub the place down. Then, an officer opened the fridge. At first, it looked like the refrigerator was full of large cuts of meat. But something wasn't right. Then, they spotted 2 human heads tucked inside the vegetable drawer. Fred and Edwina's dismembered bodies had been carefully wrapped and stored in the fridge like leftovers. It was beyond horrifying. Further investigation found that the organs had been flushed down the toilet, and blood was discovered around the house, though it had clearly been cleaned up. Whoever had done this had taken their time. The state of the remains suggested that the murders had happened a few days earlier, most likely on Father's Day, June 20th. The dismemberment was so clean and precise that police began to wonder if the killer had some sort of medical or anatomical training. When police searched the attic apartment, they found that Charles's private living space was neat, organized, and most importantly, empty. There were no signs of a struggle. He was just gone. Charles Rogers had vanished, and the hunt was on. So, who exactly was Charles Rogers? That's where the story starts to get even stranger. Born in 1921, Charles is the only child of Fred and Edwina. By all accounts, he was incredibly smart. He studied nuclear physics, became a licensed pilot, served in World War II, and later worked as a seismologist for Shell Oil. He was also a recluse. People who knew him said that he was brilliant but deeply introverted. He spoke multiple languages and communicated with other radio enthusiasts through ham radio, but other than that, kept to himself almost completely. Even when he moved back in with his parents in the late 1950s, he reportedly only communicated with them by slipping notes under the door. Neighbors barely ever saw him. He used a back entrance to get up to his attic apartment, avoided small talk, and lived surrounded by books, maps, and electronics. There were also whispers, though, that Charles thought his parents were stealing from him and maybe even forging his signature. Some people believe that his mother, Edwina, was manipulative and controlling. Charles's mental state is still a matter of debate. Was he suffering from paranoia, or was there something more to it? When police dug into his room after the murders, they found maps of South America with locations circled, books on survival, and evidence that he was obsessed with espionage and intelligence tactics. With Charles as their prime suspect, police expected the manhunt to produce results. But days turned into weeks and no one could find him. His car was gone and so was his passport. However, there was no activity on his bank account. Authorities speculated that he might have fled the country. Some thought that he could have taken a ship out of Houston or made his way to Mexico. The circled maps in his attic pointed investigators towards Central and South America, but no confirmed sightings ever came. People who understood spycraft, though, said that Charles was exactly the type of person who could vanish. One detective even said, quote, "If anyone could disappear without a trace, it was him," end quote. 10 years after the murders, with no sign of him, Charles was declared legally dead. But the police were still convinced that he was responsible. In fact, in the 1990s, the Houston PD closed the case, officially naming Charles Rogers as the killer. They just never caught him. The longer Charles stayed missing, the more theories emerged. Some of them were outlandish, like the one taken from a 1992 book claiming that Charles was involved in the assassination of JFK. According to this theory, Charles had CIA ties and was one of the 3 tramps seen on Dealey Plaza on the day Kennedy was shot. The book even suggested that his parents found out too much and had to be silenced. More grounded theories suggest that Charles may have suffered from a psychological break, or had simply been pushed too far by years of tension in the house. Some think that his upbringing, his isolation, and his possible paranoia created the perfect storm that ended in violence. Whether you believe that Charles was a secret agent or just a troubled man, the fact remains: Charles Rogers vanished, and he's never been found. More than 50 years later, the Icebox Murders remain one of Houston's most notorious cases. And even though police say that they've solved it, the fact that Charles was never arrested or confirmed dead means that the mystery still lingers. The house on Driscoll Street was torn down in the early 90s, but that didn't stop the speculation. Some people are still convinced that Charles is out there somewhere living under a new name. And it's not just the horror of the murders that keeps people fascinated. It's the mystery. In today's world of digital footprints and surveillance cameras, it's almost impossible to imagine someone disappearing the way that Charles Rogers did in 1965. But he did. And until someone finds evidence to the contrary, the story of the Icebox Murders remains a chilling puzzle. One part tragedy, one part enigma, and one part ghost story. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found today's story compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It'll help us grow. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!
Lowe's knows how to set off your July 4th with savings. Right now, buy one, get one free on select one-coat coverage interior paint via Visa gift card rebate. Plus, get 2 select 2 or 2.5 quart red, white, and blue annuals for just $10. Hurry, these July 4th deals won't last long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for more details.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.